One of the most profound and debated statements made by Jesus in the Bible is his declaration, "I and my Father are one," found in John 10 verse 30. This simple yet profound statement has been the subject of intense theological discussion and debate for centuries, as it speaks to the core of Christian beliefs about the nature of God and the relationship between Jesus and the Father. To fully understand what Jesus meant by this statement, we must delve into the broader context of his ministry and teachings as recorded in the Gospels. Throughout his time on earth, Jesus made numerous claims about his divine nature and his unique relationship with God the Father. He frequently referred to God as his Father and spoke of himself as the Son of God, asserting an intimacy and oneness with the Godhead that was unprecedented and deeply challenging to the religious establishment of his day. In the Gospel of John, this theme of Jesus' divinity and his oneness with the Father is particularly prominent. John's account presents Jesus as the eternal Word who was with God and was God, and who became incarnate as a human being, John 1 verses 1 to 14. This lays the foundation for Jesus' later claims about his unity with the Father. The specific context of Jesus' statement, "I and my Father are one," is found in John 10, where Jesus is engaged in a heated debate with the Jewish religious leaders. He has just finished declaring that he is the Good Shepherd who lays down his life for his sheep, and that no one can snatch his sheep out of his hand, John 10 verses 27 to 29. It is at this point that he makes the bold declaration, "I and my Father are one," John 10 verse 30. The reaction of the Jewish leaders is one of outrage, as they immediately pick up stones to stone him, accusing him of blasphemy, John 10 verses 31 to 33. This strong reaction underscores the radical nature of Jesus' claim and the extent to which it challenged the traditional Jewish understanding of the nature of God. To grasp the significance of Jesus' statement, we must examine the different ways in which the phrase, "I and my Father are one," has been interpreted by theologians and biblical scholars over the centuries. Some have understood it as a declaration of the essential unity of the Godhead, affirming that Jesus is fully divine and co-equal with the Father. Others have seen it as a statement of the functional unity and harmony between Jesus and the Father, emphasizing their shared purpose and mission. One perspective is that Jesus is asserting a metaphysical or ontological oneness with the Father, meaning that he is of the same divine essence or nature as God the Father. This interpretation sees the statement as a clear proclamation of Jesus' divinity, placing him on an equal footing with the Almighty. The idea is that just as the Father is God, so too is the Son, and that they're united in their shared divine attributes and qualities. This view aligns with the broader Trinitarian theology that emerged in the early centuries of the Church, which affirms the doctrine of the Trinity, that God exists as three distinct persons, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, who are nevertheless one in substance or essence. According to this understanding, when Jesus says, "I and my Father are one," he is asserting his full and equal participation in the Godhead. Another perspective is that Jesus is speaking of a functional or operational unity with the Father, rather than an essential or ontological oneness. In this view, the emphasis is on the harmony of purpose and action between Jesus and the Father, rather than on their metaphysical or ontological identity. The idea is that Jesus and the Father are one in the sense that they are perfectly aligned in their will, their work, and their mission to redeem humanity. Proponents of this interpretation point to other statements by Jesus that seem to distinguish him from the Father, such as "The Father is greater than I," John 14 verse 28, and "I do nothing on my own but speak just what the Father has taught me," John 8 verse 28. They argue that these kinds of statements suggest a subordination or distinction between Jesus and the Father, which would be incompatible with a strict ontological oneness. Instead, they see the unity between Jesus and the Father as one of perfect harmony, love, and cooperation, rather than an essential or metaphysical identity. The emphasis is on the fact that Jesus and the Father are fully united in their purpose and their actions, even if they remain distinct persons within the Godhead. A third perspective, which has been championed by some Unitarian and Arian theologians, is that Jesus' statement, "I and my Father are one," does not refer to any kind of ontological or metaphysical unity at all, but rather a unity of purpose, will, and testimony. In this view, Jesus is not claiming to be divine or co-equal with the Father, but rather asserting that he and the Father are in perfect agreement and that their testimonies about him are one and the same. According to this interpretation, Jesus is simply declaring that he and the Father are one in the sense that they are united in their witness and their mission to the world. The idea is that Jesus is the perfect representative and agent of the Father, so that when people see and hear Jesus, they are seeing and hearing the Father himself. But this does not necessarily imply any kind of metaphysical or ontological unity between the two. Proponents of this view often point to other statements by Jesus that seem to distinguish himself from the Father, such as "The Father is greater than I," John 14 verse 28, and "I have come in my Father's name," John 5 verse 43. They argue that these kinds of statements are incompatible with a strong doctrine of the Trinity or of Jesus' full divinity. Ultimately, the question of what Jesus meant by "I and my Father are one" remains a subject of ongoing theological debate and discussion. Reasonable Christians have held and continue to hold different perspectives on this issue, based on their interpretation of the broader biblical witness and their understanding of the nature of God and the relationship between Jesus and the Father. Those who affirm the doctrine of the Trinity and Jesus' full divinity see his statement as a clear declaration of his ontological oneness with the Father, affirming that he is fully God and co-equal with the Father. Those who emphasize the functional or operational unity between Jesus and the Father see the statement as a proclamation of their perfect harmony and unity of purpose, rather than a claim to metaphysical identity. And those who hold a more Unitarian or Arian perspective see the statement as a declaration of the unity of testimony and witness between Jesus and the Father, without necessarily implying any kind of ontological oneness or co-equality. Ultimately, the truth of the matter may lie in a synthesis or balance of these different perspectives. Perhaps Jesus' statement "I and my Father are one" encompasses elements of all three, a profound unity of essence, purpose, and witness that defy simple categorization or explanation. The mystery and complexity of the Godhead and the relationship between the Father and the Son may simply be beyond the full comprehension of the human mind. What we can say with certainty is that this statement by Jesus lies at the very heart of Christian theology and faith. It speaks to the core of who Jesus is and the nature of his relationship with the Father. It is a statement that has inspired centuries of theological reflection and has shaped the beliefs and practices of countless generations of Christians. Whether one interprets it as a declaration of essential divinity, functional unity, or testimonial harmony, the words "I and my Father are one" remain a profound and challenging utterance that calls us to grapple with the deepest mysteries of the Christian faith. They invite us to ponder the nature of God, the identity of Jesus, and the relationship between the divine and the human, questions that have captivated and perplexed believers for millennia. As we explore this passage and the broader context of Jesus' ministry and teachings, we may find that there is no single, simple answer to the question of what he meant by this statement. Instead, we may discover a multifaceted and multi-layered truth that speaks to the very heart of the Christian experience, a truth that challenges us to deepen our own understanding of the divine and to grow in our relationship with the God who is both transcendent and immanent, both wholly other and intimately near. In the end, perhaps the most important thing is not to arrive at a definitive, dogmatic conclusion, but rather to engage with the text and the tradition in a spirit of humility, openness, and reverence. For the mystery of the Godhead, and the nature of the relationship between the Father and the Son, is one that will continue to captivate and inspire believers for generations to come. As we ponder these profound and weighty words of Jesus, may we be drawn ever deeper into the great ocean of divine truth, where we can find both clarity and wonder, both certainty and mystery. And may our understanding of this statement, and of the entire gospel message, transform us and empower us to live more fully into the calling that Jesus has placed upon our lives.